The unexpected delivery. The December rain fell in unforgiving sheets as Simone Taylor hurried up the steps to her apartment building, shoulders hunched against the wind. Her social work case files were safely tucked inside her waterproof messenger bag, though her mind was still with the teenage mother she'd been counseling all afternoon. A strange sound halted her just as she reached for the door, a mewling cry, barely audible above the downpour. Simone froze, keys suspended midair. There, nestled in the building's shallow alcove, partially shielded from the rain, sat a wicker basket. "Oh my God," she whispered, crouching down. Wrapped in a soft blue blanket was a tiny infant, face scrunched and reddening with each cry. Simone's training kicked in. She quickly brought the basket inside the lobby, hands trembling as she pulled back the blanket to check the baby. A boy, newborn by the looks of him, umbilical stump still fresh. Whoever had left him had at least cleaned him properly and dressed him warmly. "Hey there, little one," she murmured, lifting him carefully. "Let's get you somewhere warm." In her apartment, Simone placed a call to the police and Child Protective Services, her voice steady despite her racing heart. While waiting, she examined the basket more carefully. Tucked beneath a fold in the blanket was a sealed envelope and something that glinted in the light, a platinum pendant on a delicate chain. Engraved with the initials ER, the pendant looked extraordinarily expensive. This wasn't an ordinary abandonment case. Officer Josephine Winters arrived first, her expression softening at the sight of the sleeping baby in Simone's arms. "Found him just like this?" she asked, photographing the basket and its contents. "Yes." "No sign of whoever left him." Simone handed over the envelope. This was with him. The officer opened it carefully, revealing a handwritten note. "His name is Noah. Please make sure he reaches his father. He will know the pendant." "ER," Simone murmured, turning the platinum piece over in her hand. "Do you think—" "Let's not speculate," Officer Winters said gently. "CPS will be here soon. They'll handle this." But after the officials left, promising to return in the morning and leaving the baby temporarily in Simone's care given her professional background, curiosity got the better of her. Settled on her couch with the sleeping infant in a makeshift bassinet beside her, Simone opened her laptop. ER in Pittsburgh. Someone wealthy enough to afford platinum jewelry. The search results appeared almost immediately. Elijah Reed, the 34-year-old founder of Horizon Technologies, whose privacy was as legendary as his fortune. A recluse for the past year following what the media vaguely termed personal tragedy, Simone studied his photograph, piercing gray eyes, strong jawline softened by unexpected kindness, dark hair swept back from a broad forehead. Handsome, certainly, but with a haunted quality in his expression. Her phone rang, startling her. "An unknown number, Ms. Taylor," a crisp, professional voice. "This is Diane Mercer, Mr. Elijah Reed's executive assistant. We understand you found something that belongs to him." Simone's breath caught. "How did you—" "Mr. Reed would appreciate a meeting. Tomorrow morning, if possible." The baby stirred, tiny fingers flexing. Simone looked down at his peaceful face, then back at the photograph on her screen. "I think," she said carefully, "Mr. Reed and I have quite a bit to discuss." Guarded hearts. The Reed Technologies headquarters dominated Pittsburgh's skyline, 60 floors of gleaming glass and steel rising like a modern fortress above the city. Simone stepped through the revolving doors, baby Noah securely nestled against her chest in a borrowed carrier. She'd spent a restless night oscillating between rational planning and wild speculation. "Ms. Taylor." The voice belonged to the same woman who had called her, Diane Mercer, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, her silver-streaked dark hair pulled into a severe bun. "Mr. Reed is expecting you." The elevator ride to the penthouse office was silent save for Noah's occasional coos. Diane's eyes flicked periodically to the baby, her expression unreadable. When the doors opened, Simone was led through a minimalist reception area into a vast office dominated by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Elijah Reed stood with his back to them, hands clasped behind him as he gazed at the rain-washed panorama. He turned slowly and Simone's breath caught. The photographs hadn't captured the intensity of his presence, tall and broad-shouldered, with those remarkable gray eyes now fixed on the bundle against her chest. "Thank you for coming, Miss Taylor," he said, voice deep and controlled, though she detected a tremor beneath the composure. "I understand you have questions." "So do I. The baby," Simone began directly. "Is he yours?" Something flickered across Elijah's face. Pain, perhaps, or resignation. "May I see him?" Simone hesitated, protective instincts flaring, but carefully unwrapped Noah from the carrier. The infant blinked sleepily, tiny fists waving in the air. When she looked up, Elijah had moved closer, his expression transformed by naked vulnerability. "Olivia," he whispered, almost to himself. "He has her eyes." "Olivia?" Elijah reached into his pocket and withdrew a photograph, himself with a striking woman with honey-blonde hair and bright blue eyes. They were laughing, unaware of the camera, caught in a moment of perfect happiness. "Olivia Brennan," he explained, voice rough. "We were together for 2 years. She suffered from bipolar disorder. When she was on her medication, everything was wonderful. When she wasn't," he trailed off, eyes fixed on Noah. 11 months ago, she disappeared. She'd just discovered she was pregnant, and she was terrified of what motherhood might mean with her condition. I searched everywhere, hired private investigators, but she'd vanished completely. And the pendant? A gift. I had matching ones made, ER and OB intertwined. His fingers brushed the chain around Noah's neck. She must have wanted me to know he was mine. Simone felt the weight of his grief and something else, caution. "Mr. Reed, Child Protective Services will require a paternity test before already arranged. My doctor will meet us at my home. I've also contacted my attorneys to begin the process of establishing legal custody." His voice became businesslike again, the vulnerability receding behind a wall of efficiency. "I've prepared a nursery and hired staff with experience in newborn care." That was fast, Simone remarked, unease crawling up her spine. "But Noah can't simply disappear into your life without proper oversight. There are protocols, which I intend to follow scrupulously," Elijah interrupted. "I'm not trying to circumvent the system, Ms. Taylor. I'm trying to protect my son from becoming entangled in it. Surely you, of all people, understand the limitations of our foster care system." The pointed reference to her profession wasn't lost on Simone. "How much do you know about me, Mr. Reed?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Enough to know you're exactly who Olivia would have chosen to find our son. Your dedication to child welfare, your reputation for integrity, perhaps it wasn't coincidence your building was selected. Or perhaps you're seeing patterns where there are none," Simone countered, readjusting Noah as he began to fuss. "Grief can do that." Something hardened in Elijah's expression. "I assure you my mind is perfectly clear on this matter. Noah is my son, and I intend to provide him with everything he needs, including emotional stability, a sense of normalcy." The words escaped before Simone could filter them. "Your wealth can provide material comfort, but babies need consistent care, attachment, routine. And you believe I'm incapable of providing these things?" Elijah's voice cooled dangerously. "I believe you're grieving and making rapid decisions. I believe this baby deserves careful consideration of his best interests by all parties." Simone met his gaze unflinchingly, including continued supervision by child welfare professionals. Their standoff was interrupted by Noah's escalating cries. Without thinking, Simone began the gentle, bouncing motion that had soothed him through the night. To her surprise, Elijah stepped forward, arms extended. "May I?" Hesitantly, she transferred the baby to his arms, watching as he cradled Noah with unexpected confidence. The infant's cries subsided as Elijah murmured softly to him, one large hand supporting his tiny head with remarkable tenderness. "I took parenting classes," he explained, catching Simone's surprised expression, "when Olivia told me she was pregnant, before she left." The simple statement pierced Simone's defenses. This wasn't just a billionaire attempting to claim property. This was a man who had prepared to be a father, who had lost that chance and now unexpectedly found it again. "Mr. Reed." "Elijah." "Please, Elijah," she amended, I propose a compromise. I'll work with you and your legal team to expedite the process, but I insist on remaining involved as Noah's case manager to ensure his transition is smooth and proper protocols are followed. Something like respect flickered in his eyes. You're not intimidated easily, are you, Ms. Taylor? Simone, she corrected with a small smile. And no, I'm not, especially not when a child's welfare is at stake. Outside, the rain had stopped, sunlight breaking through the clouds to cast long shadows across the office floor. Noah had fallen asleep in Elijah's arms, tiny fingers wrapped around his father's thumb in a grip that seemed to anchor them both to a future neither had anticipated. Growing pains, 3 weeks later, Simone found herself in the cavernous kitchen of Elijah's Shadyside mansion, preparing a bottle while Noah fussed in his state-of-the-art bassinet. The paternity test had confirmed what they'd already known. Noah was undeniably Elijah's son, and the courts had granted temporary custody while the legal process continued. There you go. Little man? Simone murmured, testing the formula temperature on her wrist. The kitchen's marble countertops and professional-grade appliances felt ludicrously oversized for making a single baby bottle. You know there's a nanny for that, came a cool voice from the doorway. Vivian Reed, Elijah's sister, leaned against the frame, arms crossed over her designer blouse. Her resemblance to her brother was striking. Same gray eyes, same dark hair, but where his features had softened toward Simone over recent weeks, Vivian's remained glacial. I'm perfectly capable of preparing a bottle, Simone replied evenly, lifting Noah and settling into the kitchen chair to feed him. And I'm here as his case manager, not household staff. Vivian's lips thinned. Elijah's besotted with the child, I understand that, but allowing a stranger such intimate access to our family affairs seems imprudent. Your brother doesn't seem to share your concerns. My brother, Vivian said sharply, is vulnerable. That woman nearly destroyed him, and now this. She gestured toward Noah. The Reed family has always been private. This situation, an unexpected child, the involvement of social services, creates unnecessary exposure. Simone focused on Noah's peaceful expression as he drank. Your nephew isn't a situation, Ms. Reed. He's a child who deserves the love and protection of his family, all his family. And you appointed yourself the arbiter of what that looks like? Vivian stepped closer, her expensive perfume wafting through the kitchen. Let's be transparent, Ms. Taylor. What exactly do you hope to gain from your dedication to this case? The insinuation hung between them, ugly and explicit. Before Simone could respond, another voice cut through the tension. That's enough, Viv. Elijah stood in the doorway, suit jacket discarded, tie loosened. He'd clearly just returned from the office. His expression was thunderous as he looked at his sister. Simone is here at my request and with the full backing of the court. She has been nothing but professional and supportive throughout this process. Vivian's composure didn't waver. I'm simply concerned about our family's privacy and your well-being, brother. After everything with Olivia— Not here, Elijah cut her off, with a pointed glance toward Simone and Noah. My office, now. After they departed, Simone exhaled slowly, continuing to feed Noah while trying to ignore the muffled sounds of heated discussion from down the hall. She couldn't deny that Vivian's suspicions stung, particularly because Simone had been increasingly questioning her own motivations. Professional boundaries had begun to blur. She found herself lingering after official visits, delighting in Noah's first smile, cataloging his small developments with a pride that felt dangerously personal. And then there was Elijah, the unexpected tenderness with which he cared for his son, the late-night conversations over tea when Noah's fussiness kept them both awake, the gradual revelation of the man behind the billionaire facade. When Elijah returned alone, his expression was weary, but resolved. I apologize for my sister. Vivian is protective. Family loyalty is admirable, Simone offered, rising to burp Noah. She's not entirely wrong to question my continued involvement. Elijah took a step closer, close enough that Simone could detect the subtle scent of his cologne. Is that what you're doing? Questioning your involvement? Professionally, my role should be diminishing as you settle into fatherhood. You've complied with every requirement, created a suitable home environment, demonstrated appropriate bonding. But, he prompted when she trailed off. Simone met his gaze directly. But I'm finding it difficult to maintain appropriate distance. I care about Noah and about you in ways that complicate my professional responsibilities. Something shifted in Elijah's expression, hope, perhaps, or relief. Then perhaps it's time to redefine those responsibilities. He reached out, his hand coming to rest lightly on her arm. Simone, The moment shattered with the shrill ring of the doorbell, followed by the housekeeper's hurried footsteps. Seconds later, the kitchen door swung open again. Mr. Reed, the housekeeper announced, her usual composure fractured. There's a woman here. She says she's Noah's mother. Simone felt Elijah stiffen beside her, his face draining of color. Noah, sensing the sudden tension, began to whimper against her shoulder. Olivia, Elijah whispered, the name falling like a stone between them. Whispers of truth. The woman who entered the kitchen bore only a ghostly resemblance to the laughing, vibrant figure from Elijah's photograph. Olivia Brennan was painfully thin, her once golden hair dulled and cropped short, dark shadows beneath her blue eyes. Noah's eyes. She wore a simple dress that hung from her frame, and her hands trembled slightly as she clutched a worn backpack. Elijah, she said softly, her gaze moving to the baby in Simone's arms. And you must be Simone Taylor. I've been watching from a distance, making sure Noah was safe. The silence that followed was dense with unspoken questions. Simone felt frozen in place, Noah squirming against her as though somehow sensing his mother's presence. You disappeared, Elijah finally said, his voice stripped of emotion. 11 months with no word, Olivia. I thought you were dead, Olivia flinched. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I had my reasons. Reasons? The word escaped as barely more than a whisper, but the pain behind it was palpable. I searched everywhere, hired investigators, contacted hospitals across the country. Your family was frantic. My family knew. Olivia's chin lifted slightly. Not everything, but enough. They helped me disappear. Elijah took a step back as though physically struck. Why? Olivia's eyes darted to Simone, then back to Elijah. I'd rather discuss this privately. Anything you have to say can be said in front of Simone, Elijah countered, a protective edge entering his voice that caused Simone's heart to clench. Olivia seemed to shrink further but nodded. You remember the Phillips merger? Last January? Confusion crossed Elijah's face at the apparent non-sequitur. Of course, it was a significant acquisition for Reed Technologies. And the negotiations with Martin Phillips were challenging. Martin was obstinate, but we eventually reached favorable terms. Elijah's brow furrowed. What does this have to do with your disappearance? Olivia's hands twisted together. Everything. Martin Phillips threatened me, Elijah. Said he knew about my mental health history, my hospitalization when I was 19. He said if I didn't convince you to accept his terms, he'd make sure everyone knew Reed Technologies was run by a man whose judgment was compromised by his relationship with a... Her voice caught. An unstable woman. That any children we might have would be tainted by my genetics. Elijah's face had gone completely white. Why didn't you tell me? Because you would have destroyed him, Olivia said simply. And in doing so, possibly destroyed yourself. Your board was already uneasy about our relationship. If it became a business liability, so you left? Because of Philip's threats? Elijah's voice rose in disbelief. Not just that. When I discovered I was pregnant, it confirmed my worst fears. What if I wasn't stable enough to be a mother? What if I passed on my condition? What if I had a postpartum psychotic break? Tears spilled down her cheeks. I panicked. I ran. I thought it was better for everyone. Better? Elijah echoed hollowly. You think abandoning our child was better? I didn't abandon him, Olivia countered, a flash of fire in her eyes. I made sure he found his way to you. To the father who could provide him everything I couldn't. Stability, protection, resources. And now? Simone asked quietly, speaking for the first time. Why have you returned? Olivia's gaze shifted to her, evaluating, measuring. Because I realized running solved nothing. Because I've been in intensive treatment for the past 10 months. Because I wanted to see, just once, that my son was safe and loved before I... She stopped, swallowing hard. Before you what? Elijah demanded. Before I sign away my parental rights, Olivia finished, her voice barely audible. I'm not here to disrupt his life, Elijah. I'm here to legally confirm what I've already done. Place him in your care permanently. The kitchen fell silent, except for Noah's soft babbling. Simone found herself unconsciously tightening her hold on him, a gesture not lost on Olivia, whose sad smile held no resentment. You care for him, she observed. Both of you, together, that's better than I dared hope for. Elijah seemed unable to process the rapid shifts. Olivia, you can't just appear and disappear again. That's not how this works. I know, she said quietly. I've spoken with a family law attorney. I understand the process. But before any legal proceedings, I wanted to see you, to explain, to ask. She hesitated, then straightened her shoulders. To ask if there might be a way forward that allows me some small place in Noah's life. Not as his primary caregiver, but perhaps as someone he knows cares for him. The request hung in the air, complex and fraught with implications. Simone watched Elijah struggle with conflicting emotions, anger, compassion, lingering love, fresh pain. I think, Simone ventured carefully, this conversation requires time and professional mediation. There are frameworks for cooperative parenting arrangements that prioritize Noah's well-being while respecting everyone's boundaries. Olivia's grateful look spoke volumes. Elijah's expression remained guarded, but he nodded slowly. We'll consult with the family court mediator, he agreed, his voice strained but controlled. Nothing will be decided tonight. Later, after Olivia had been shown to a guest room and Noah had been settled in his nursery, Simone found Elijah in his study, a glass of untouched whiskey before him as he stared into the fireplace. I don't know what to feel, he admitted as she took the seat across from him. Relief that she's alive? Rage that she left? Gratitude that she brought Noah to me? Fear that she might change her mind about custody? All of it is valid, Simone offered softly. This situation is unprecedented. Elijah's laugh was hollow. My life seems to specialize in unprecedented lately. His eyes found hers across the dim room. Including you. Me? The woman who brought my son into my life. Who challenged me at every turn. Who made me believe I could actually be the father Noah deserves. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Where does this leave us, Simone? The question penetrated to the heart of what she'd been avoiding. I don't know, she admitted. Professionally, ethically, there are complications. To hell with professional complications, Elijah interrupted, a rare profanity escaping him. I'm asking about us, whatever has been growing between us these past weeks. Simone felt her carefully constructed boundaries wavering. Olivia's return changes things. Only if we let it. His intensity was magnetic. Unless I've misread everything between us? You haven't, Simone whispered, the admission both frightening and liberating. But Noah has to come first. And right now, that means proceeding with caution until we understand what Olivia's role will be. Elijah nodded slowly, disappointment and understanding mingling in his expression. Always the voice of reason, he murmured. But the words held admiration rather than criticism. Simone rose, knowing that lingering would only complicate matters further. At the door, she paused, looking back at his solitary figure silhouetted against the firelight. For what it's worth, she said softly, I believe there's room in Noah's life for all the people who love him. It just might take time to find the right balance. His answering smile was small but genuine, the first real smile since Olivia's appearance. Then time is what we'll take. Building Bridges Spring had transformed Pittsburgh by the time the custody arrangements were finalized. The magnolias outside the family court bloomed extravagantly as Simone watched Elijah. Olivia and their respective attorneys emerged from the final mediation session, faces solemn but without the tension that had marked earlier proceedings. 6 months had passed since Olivia's dramatic return, months of carefully negotiated visits, psychological evaluations, parenting assessments, and delicate conversations. Through it all, Noah had continued to thrive, growing from a dependent newborn into an increasingly interactive baby with Elijah's thoughtful gaze and Olivia's infectious smile. Simone had stepped back from her official capacity, transferring Noah's case to a colleague once it became clear her personal involvement had crossed professional boundaries. She'd found a new position with a nonprofit supporting families in transition, work that felt meaningful while providing necessary distance from the Reed family dynamics. Distance that had proven both necessary and painful. Simone. Elijah spotted her on the courthouse steps, surprise and something warmer lighting his face. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I wanted to know how it turned out," she admitted, suddenly self-conscious. They hadn't spoken privately in weeks, their interactions limited to brief exchanges during the transition to her replacement case manager. Olivia approached cautiously, the months of treatment and stability having restored some of her former vibrancy. "The judge approved our co-parenting agreement," she explained. "Primary custody to Elijah, with supervised visitation for me, gradually increasing as Noah gets older." It's fair. I'm glad," Simone said sincerely, though a small part of her ached at the picture they presented, Noah's parents, moving forward together. As if reading her thoughts, Olivia's expression softened. "Elijah, why don't you show Simone the final agreement?" "I need to call my therapist anyway. Promised I'd check in after the hearing." With a knowing glance between them, she moved away, giving them privacy. "She's been remarkably cooperative," Elijah commented, watching Olivia go. "The medication is working well this time, and she's committed to her treatment plan." "And you? How are you feeling about everything?" Elijah's smile was tired but genuine. "Relieved, grateful, terrified." He gestured to a nearby bench. "Walk with me?" They strolled to the small courthouse garden, settling on a bench beneath a flowering cherry tree. For a moment they sat in companionable silence, shoulders not quite touching. "Noah asked for you yesterday," Elijah said finally. "Well, not in words, but he kept looking at that photograph on the bookshelf, the one of you holding him at the zoo. He recognizes you." Simone's heart constricted. "I miss him. Both of you," she added softly. "Then why stay away?" The directness of the question startled her. Elijah had always been careful to respect the boundaries she'd established. It seemed cleaner for everyone. "You and Olivia needed space to find your co-parenting rhythm without complications." "Olivia and I are not reconciling romantically, if that's what you're implying," Elijah said flatly. "We're Noah's parents, and we're learning to be friends again, but that chapter of our lives is closed." Hope fluttered dangerously in Simone's chest. "Even so, my involvement would be complicated. The power dynamics, my former professional role." "Stop," Elijah interrupted gently. "For once, could we set aside all the rational arguments and speak honestly? I miss you, Simone. These months without you have been—" He searched for the right word. "Incomplete. Noah misses you. And I think, despite your very logical reasons for staying away, you miss us too." The cherry blossoms swirled around them, dislodged by a spring breeze. One landed on Simone's knee and she brushed it away, buying time to steady her voice. "I do," she admitted finally, "more than I thought possible." Elijah reached across the space between them, his hand finding hers. "Then perhaps it's time to stop analyzing and start building something new. Something that doesn't fit neatly into professional categories or conventional arrangements." "What would that even look like?" Simone asked, not pulling away from his touch. "I don't know exactly," he confessed, a rare uncertainty in his voice. "But I think it looks like dinner at my house tonight. It looks like reading Noah his bedtime story together. It looks like taking one day at a time until we figure it out." Simone turned to face him fully, studying the face that had become so dear to her. The strength, the vulnerability, the unexpected gentleness that his public persona concealed. "Olivia would be okay with this?" "With us?" Elijah's smile held a hint of wry amusement. It was her idea. "Something about how Noah deserves to have all the people who love him in his life. The echo of Simone's own words from months earlier wasn't lost on her. She's wiser than I gave her credit for. We all are, in our own ways. Elijah's fingers tightened around hers. So what do you say, Simone Taylor? Ready to build something unconventional? The question hung between them, laden with possibility. 6 months ago, Simone would have analyzed every angle, considered every potential complication, erected careful boundaries to protect herself from disappointment. But the woman who had found a baby on her doorstep on a rainy December night wasn't the same woman sitting in this sunlit garden. That night had changed everything, had changed her. Yes, she said simply, turning her hand to intertwine her fingers with his, one day at a time. Later that evening, as she watched Elijah gently rocking Noah to sleep, his deep voice murmuring a lullaby while the baby's eyelids grew heavy, Simone leaned against the nursery doorframe and allowed herself to imagine a future she'd never dared consider. One built not on conventional structures or professional categories, but on something far more fundamental. Love, in all its messy, complicated, beautiful forms. Noah's tiny hand reached up, grasping his father's finger with surprising strength, and Elijah looked up, catching Simone's gaze over their son's drowsy form. The smile they shared held no uncertainty, no hesitation, only the quiet recognition of having found, against all odds, exactly where they belonged.